Guys, it's Jetson and welcome to another video. So we're about a month into this NBA season and rumors have been swirling about how the San Antonio Spurs might deal DeMar DeRozan to another team. And for the Spurs, this makes perfect sense. Obviously, they should be rebuilding. They're 13th place in the Western Conference and they simply can't keep up with some of these teams that are simply more talented in the West. But the problem is, with veterans like Patty Mills, DeRozan himself, and LaMarcus Aldridge, they haven't really fully embraced a rebuild. So they're at a crossroads right now in terms of the future and the present. And I really feel like they should lean towards the future right now. And dealing DeRozan would be the perfect start, provided they don't take back some terrible contract or something like that. But if they're able to successfully deal with DeRozan, it could be a good start to a new era. They have to realize that they no longer have Tim Duncan, Manu Ginobili, or Tony Parker. It's a new era they need to build for, or else they're going to be far behind some of these other teams who are on the rise in the West. I mean, we're talking about the New Orleans Pelicans right now with Zion Williamson. They could be a future threat. Denver, Dallas. There's so many other teams out there that if San Antonio doesn't get a head start now, they're going to fall behind. And I think that they realize that, and I think that they will deal with DeMar DeRozan. The real interesting question here, guys, is who should deal for DeMar DeRozan right now? Because he's not a perfect player. Let's make it very clear. For today's NBA, he's not. He shoots a lot of mid-range shots. He's ball dominant, and he can't shoot the three-pointer. He does slash for the hoop. I'll give him that. That's very important in today's NBA. But teams simply aren't looking for what he provides right now. And there are a few teams that might work. I think that the New York Knicks should take a look at him for sure, because they've been a laughingstock for years. And for the right price, if they deal for DeRozan, maybe they could contend for a 7 or 8 seed and change the culture around there. That would certainly be interesting. But the team that makes the most sense to me is the Orlando Magic. And I think that the Orlando Magic should deal for DeMar DeRozan. I mean, let's look at their year last year. What a year that was. They got the 7th seed somehow against all odds. No one expected them to get into the playoffs that year, myself included. And then they stunned the Raptors game 1 in Toronto with that DJ Augustine game-winning shot. That was awesome. And they really had a great year. They proved me wrong. Credit to Nikola Vucevic, DJ Augustine, Jonathan Isaac, among others. They had a great year last year. But we all know there was conflict going through the offseason because Vucevic's contract expired, Terrence Ross's contract expired, among others. And I thought that they should let those guys go because it was kind of a fluky year last year. But they chose to bring the crew back. No problem with that. That's okay. But the problem is that they had such a limited ceiling with Vucevic leading the team because they just don't have enough offensive firepower, in my opinion, to get the job done this year. They've been pretty below right now. They've been below average in terms of offense, and their offense has really pulled back what has been a stellar defense, and it's caused them to go 6-7, a very shaky start. And if it were not for a 3-game winning streak, we wouldn't even be talking about the Orlando Magic right now. But DeMar DeRozan would change that. Let me remind you guys that through 1 month of this NBA season, he's been averaging 21 points on 51.5% field goal percentage. I'll take that any day of the week. That's just really efficient from a great scorer. Even if I don't really like the shot selection that he chooses to do, that's still great. I mean, 51.5%, 21 points per game. I'll take that any day of the week. And he could easily bolster up Orlando's lineup. My projected trade would be Orlando sending Nikola Vucevic and a first-round pick, lottery protected, to San Antonio for DeMar DeRozan. Let's start with San Antonio. This makes all the sense in the world. You get to pair LaMarcus Aldridge with Nikola Vucevic to keep the team afloat in the playoff picture potentially. And meanwhile, you're able to put the ball in the hands of DeJounte Murray, which is the most important part, because they'll be able to develop the future. And even guys like Derek White, they need the ball. These young guys need the ball. And dealing DeRozan would provide them with the opportunity to do just that, which is very important. As for Orlando, that's where things get really interesting. I mean, you look at their starting 5, Markelle Fultz, an interesting reclamation project. We went into DeRozan. He'd be starting for them as shooting guard. Aaron Gordon, an interesting piece at small forward, very athletic. I think he could potentially make the All-Star leap if he continues to develop at the pace he's developing at. Jonathan Isaac, a versatile forward at power forward, that'd be interesting. And Mo Bamba with that long 7'2" wingspan. I mean, he would be an interesting piece at center. He hasn't really gotten the minutes necessary, but I really feel like if they plugged him in and gave him the necessary minutes at center, he'd be a shot blocking presence in the interior, and he'd be a defensive nightmare in the paint. And you look at that lineup, and they're already number one in defensive efficiency. Imagine that lineup with Bamba instead of Vucevic. I think Bamba's a better defender. And you look at that lineup, there'd be a defensive nightmare. And in the East, where there's teams like Philadelphia who are struggling on offense, Milwaukee, other than Giannis, they're kind of struggling to create other offense. And Boston, they've been a pretty good offense, but they're lacking the interior defender. Those are your top teams. And you'd be able to kind of muster up a league average offense if you combine the fact that DJ Augustine, Terrence Ross, and Evan Fournier would be coming off the bench in this situation, along with Alfred Gamino, another versatile forward. And those guys would provide the scoring punch that Orlando would lack in the starting lineup, because even with DeRozan, they'd still be lacking some offense. But Fournier, Terrence Ross, those guys can catch fire, and they'd be able to pick up the slack, in my opinion. So this would be a very interesting team, in my opinion. There'd be a defensive nightmare, a throwback team on offense, mid-range and slashing into the hoop, a lot of points in the paint, a lot of mid-range shots. And in today's three-point NBA, where teams are kind of doing the same thing nowadays, the Orlando Magic would be a throwback team. And in the weak Eastern Conference, they could easily make the conference finals, in my opinion, if some of these teams suffer injuries at the wrong time, and if Orlando makes another deadline deal for potentially another shooter and, maybe a backup center. Orlando could be an interesting team if they play their cards the right way. But as they're constructed right now, they don't have a chance. So they need to take a riskier deal for DeRozan. And the most interesting part about this would be to see how DeMar DeRozan is able to show up. If he's able to show up, I should say. We saw what happened to him when he got to San Antonio. They were virtually the same team. They were the 7th seed 2 years ago. They were the 7th seed last year. DeRozan didn't make all that much of an impact. But you look at what happened to Toronto, them getting Kawhi Leonard, they won a championship. And we saw all the playoff heartbreak that DeRozan and Lowry caused the Raptors in previous years. And I want to see if DeRozan could potentially be the best player on a championship team. I don't think so. But on a team that he could call his own in the Orlando Magic, which he kind of had to share with Kyle Lowry with Toronto, if he was able to really have a team that he could call his team, can DeRozan really be the star player that could lift the team into the NBA Finals? I don't know. I don't think so, but it'd be interesting to see. That's all for today's video, guys. Please like and subscribe. It's been fun, and I'll probably be providing you with more NBA, NFL hot takes as the season goes on. Have a good day.